in your heart by. And the first test is called the first thought test. The first thought test. And this is a pretty good assessment. When the first thought you have about them is not the disappointment they cause in your life, you have probably extended forgiveness. So if they walk in from a long, hard day's work and you see them and your first thought is not how they let you down or not how they failed to do something, then you probably extended forgiveness. Or another way of saying it is when the thoughts you have are of peace toward them. The first thought test is your first thought of peace toward them. Now, this could apply to your boss. This could apply to a family member or your spouse or your kids or your parents or whatever. Number two, the general thoughts test. General thoughts test says it like this. Can you think positive thoughts about this person? Another way, do you assume the worst about your spouse or jump to negative conclusions about them? Do you assume the worst about your spouse or jump to negative conclusions about them? Another way of saying it flat out, is there anything good you can come up with about the person? Right? If not, have you really extended forgiveness to them? The number three test is called the revenge test. The revenge test. Now, I struggle with this one. I needed to be born again in this area of my life because I believed in retaliation. And so if you hurt me, I not only wanted to hurt you back, but I wanted to hurt you worse. Amen. I got a few people who understand what I'm saying. Somebody said, that's me right there. Okay, so, so the question becomes, do you still think of getting even with the person who hurt you? Or here's another way of saying it. Do you want their heart to hurt like your heart was hurt? Do you want them to feel your pain? If so, have you really extended forgiveness? All right, number four is the failure test. The failure test. In other words, if forgiveness means you've stopped keeping record of wrong, which means you really did let it go, then why would you bring up what they've always done? You don't have to raise your hand, but if you've ever said something like, you always do this, then that means you still have a record somewhere in your mind of the things that they continue to do wrong, and you really haven't forgiven them. You haven't let it go, right? If your spouse accuses you of constantly nagging and nitpicking, more than likely, you're not letting some stuff go. Okay. Number five, can you think about them, and this is important because it's two separate things. Can you think about them or what happened without being upset or demotivated? Can you think back to the incident of however they hurt you or let you down or whatever somebody did wrong against you? Can you think about them or the incident without being upset or demotivated? If you can, then you have probably extended forgiveness. So those are 5 ways you can think about it. Now, what in the world is forgiveness? And I'm going to give you guys a definition that I believe personally is one of the best definitions, not just because I came up with it, but I really believe that in the Bible that this is what God expects from us when he says he wants us to forgive. Okay, so to forgive is to remove the guilt resulting from a wrongdoing. So I was wronged. There's guilt that happened when I was wrong, right? And then I'm forgiving it. So another way of saying it is to pardon or to release punishment. It's to pardon or to release punishment, okay? I'm going to go further into it, and I'm going to say to forgive means that you stopped blaming or taking an offense into account. So no longer am I going to blame you for the pain that I feel. No longer am I going to attribute whatever predicament that I may be in emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually. I will no longer blame a person for my pain. When you can get to the point to where you have released the punishment and you are not blaming them for where you are, your unhappiness is not the result of that person. Your life and its joy and its peace is not contingent on the person and their behavior. When you can get to that place, you have extended forgiveness.